Remember Bridgegate? Well, it's more than a decade-old New Jersey scandal. Staffers working for Republican Governor Christie were accused of orchestrating disruptive traffic closures on the George Washington Bridge as political retribution. Now, the governor himself was never charged, but now President Trump says maybe the Justice Department should reopen the case against his former ally turned fierce critic.
And so when I listen to Chris speak his hate, I say, oh, what about the George Washington Bridge? You know, tell me about the George Washington Bridge. He blamed other people, but he knew all about it. So no, I don't know if they want to look at it. It's not for me. If they want to look at it, they can. You could ask Pam. I think we have other things to do, but I always thought he got away with murder.
Got away with murder. I mean, look, a lot of times we dismiss what Trump says about certain things and his opponents. He says a lot. But this comes in the aftermath of one of his other critics, John Bolton, his house being searched by the FBI on Friday. Yeah, so do you take this seriously, a possibility of a Bridgegate investigation into Chris Christie?
Well, let's see if it forms, but I do take seriously that Donald Trump thinks it is well within his purview to use the power of his office to go after the people he believes are his political opponents. That is, he campaigned on it. He's talked about it every day. I don't think that's really new information for voters. He's just pursuing that case here, and this clearly is after, you know, Chris Christie was on television yesterday, and he did not like what he had to say. I mean, Chris Christie's entire presidential campaign the last time around was an anti-Trump campaign. So he's been sort of under the skin of Donald Trump now for quite some time.
But in between, he became a close Donald Trump advisor, right? And so Donald Trump now says...
Well, before. I meant his most recent presidential campaign.
Sorry. In between Bridgegate and now.
Yes.
But, right? So Donald Trump was... if he thinks that Chris Christie got away with murder, there's no murder actually in Bridgegate, no matter what you think have happened there, but that there was all this wrongdoing, he put Chris Christie in charge of his first transition.
Yes.
He had Chris Christie in the room as one of his top advisors in debate prep in 2020.
Yeah.
Right?
So if you got away with murder,
Christie,
why are you giving him these positions? And to that point, on May 7th, 2020, there's always a tweet, Trump tweet on Chris Christie. Congratulations to former governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, and all the others involved on complete and total exoneration. And what he called the Obama DOJ scam, referred to as Bridgegate. So, always thought he got away with murder?
I mean, I think David made the correct point here, is that Trump has talked about using the Department of Justice to go after his political enemies for a long time. The John Bolton case is the first real example of him pursuing someone who worked for him, was his national security advisor, and sending the Department of Justice, or at least knowing about it, you know, allowing this to happen against a real political rival, former staffer turned vocal critic of the president. So I think we are in a different moment right now when Trump makes these sort of claims or makes these threats about someone like Chris Christie, because we've seen the dam is broken. He's willing to do it with John Bolton, so why wouldn't he be willing to do it with Chris Christie and the whole host of other people who are in a similar camp of John Bolton and Chris Christie, former Trump staffers or supporters turned fierce critics.
And there's a connective thread here between that and what we were talking about earlier with people who are looking at their own immigration status and worried about it. This is Trump making clear that he will use the powers of the presidency, of the government, to go after people that he doesn't like.
But I do think there was a tell in what the president said. He said, I think we should be, you know, I think we've got other things that we could be doing besides looking into Chris Christie. He knows there are other things on his plate. Nobody, you know, the people, the voters of America are not clamoring for Chris Christie to get an investigation. They are clamoring for inflation to go down and for homes to be more affordable. And they are clamoring for Donald Trump to stop a couple of foreign wars that he promised to do on day one, and he's now in month 7. Yeah. So that's what people are actually asking him to do. Those are the more important things that he knows people want him to talk about, but he's instead focusing on things that can be labeled a distraction, Chris Christie and Bridgegate being among those.
And we'll see where he ultimately goes. And it's, you know, he campaigns on one thing. Oftentimes he does what he says on the campaign trail. He did say he would go after his political opponents.